What's the best theory on UFOs or aliens you've ever heard? The premise in Lilo and Stitch, that Earth is a mosquito preserve. If aliens are on this planet, they are likely using the ocean as a place to hide. Aliens landed once in Africa, got eaten by lions. Planet now marked as dangerous by the galactic feds. Not exactly a theory, but I got a great kick out of reading this. That greys aren't fully biological, but rather remotely controlled androids. Or that they are biological, but their gray appearance is a suit and not the actual body. Imagine other lifeforms looking at our astronauts saying, "Here come the marshmallow cyclops creatures again." Interdimensional, not extraterrestrial. That if any civilization elsewhere in the universe had the technology to reach us, for any reason, they'd be very likely to also be able to disguise their presence from our detection methods, i.e., they could observe us close up using nanotech, microscopic biological spacecraft, etc., and we'd never know. Aliens don't necessarily mean an intelligent civilization. There are so many star systems with potentially inhabitable planets out there that the chances that we have been the only life in the universe is extremely slim. The question, instead, is whether life arising elsewhere has managed to survive destruction and remain alive today such that they might be able to contact us. That is to say, there have probably been countless civilizations for the past several billion years that simply haven't made it. The best two I've heard. We don't allow ourselves to contact lost tribes in the Amazon or other wild places. Extraterrestrials may have similar laws on a galactic scale. We split the atom, but made weapons out of them instead of trying to reach the stars. They leave us alone out of fear that we'll destroy ourselves if war accidentally breaks out. That life in the universe could be so unrecognizable to us that we wouldn't even register it as being alien life. What if life on another world was not carbon-based, but another element? How would we even know what to look for since our definitions and descriptions of life are based on a completely different perspective? They came. They saw. They weren't impressed. Any species advanced enough to find us wouldn't make contact. They'd study us the way we study animals, ideally with minimal interference. Compare the average abduction story to the way we dart large animals, collect data and leave them to wake a bit groggy and confused but unharmed. Edit. This took off quite a bit more than I expected. I feel like I should be very clear that it's not a theory I completely agree with. I simply think it's an interesting idea that tends to create discussions. I just threw it in the ring to see what would happen. I agree with a lot of the criticism of it actually. But that's kind of the point. I used to wholeheartedly agree with this theory, but after much discussion, debate and reflection my views have changed. But it's a good jumping off point. UFOs are higher dimensional objects moving through our dimension. Like, if we moved a 3D object through 2D space, to a 2D being, it would look crazy weird. A hollow sphere would start as a dot, then look like a hula hoop that starts small, gets big, then small again. They'd have no idea what they were looking at. So WTF would a higher dimension object look like passing through our 3D dimension? It might rapidly change shape or appear to move at incredible speed as the whatever moved through our spacetime. Gravity wouldn't affect it, I don't think. It wouldn't appear to have any form of propulsion. Brian Cox's. At least that's who I heard this from first. Solution to the Fermi paradox, TLDR. Most civilization advanced enough to get even close to interstellar travel becomes too energy intensive and destroys themselves, their planet, before they get far enough for interstellar contact. Consider the fact that the human race is a divided mess of contradictory intents. We have the scientific community reaching out peacefully. Yet if aliens do come into the airspace of any nation, the first to greet them would be the military. You can imagine what the response of the military would be when a UFO enters forbidden airspace. Given the declassified government files regarding UFOs, it is quite likely that contact has been attempted in the past and the results being tragic. That there is no one else and we are those advanced aliens. The universe is still in its toddler stage in age and we are the first intelligent people. They come from the ocean, not space. There is a very simple explanation as to why abductees independently described gray aliens as looking the same. There are no aliens and no abduction took place, but rather they are abstracting residual memories left over from being infants and looking up at adults. Before an infant's visual cortex is fully developed, an adult human looking down at them would appear rounded and gray in color with large eyes. Cross that indistinct memory with a sleep state subconscious and standard psychological patterns and boom, alien abduction. It also explains the sensation of being lifted, examined and probed. You know that trope in sci-fi shows, where they stumble upon the networks of the founders, or the ancients, or the architects? A civilization so advanced, long ago, that traveled the stars? That is us. We're seemingly alone because we're the first. Maybe they'll stumble upon us in a million years. Time-traveling humans from the future. I don't believe it, but that they live in underground caves and dwell primarily in Antarctica. I don't remember the complete theory, but people say they're an advanced race adapted for life underground, and that they have advanced machinery because they have been living on the Earth longer than humans. That they are from a breakaway human civilization that is keeping their secrets to themselves. Essentially, that some place like Wakanda is real, or that Jules Verne really isn't science fiction. It's actually science fact. When the rest of the world was making do with steam-powered industrialization, someone figured out anti-gravity and zero-point energy from the interaction between electromagnetism and gravity. So they kept this technology for themselves, and have been zipping around the rest of us keeping an eye on things. Aliens may perceive the passage of time differently than us. Our whole existence could play out before they've had their proverbial morning coffee or vice versa. Do I believe it? No. Fun to think about. IDK, but someone on here posted about something happening this year in July. They posted it like 7 or so years ago. I'm looking forward to some action this summer. The most logical theory I've ever heard is that 99% of alien sightings are set up by special intelligence agencies to distract from more nefarious things they are doing. The best theory I've ever heard is that aliens do want to make contact with us, but they're simply shy. We're not the first. We are the aliens that we're looking for. Mammals are not native to Earth. The asteroid was a massive chunk of our planet and we populated the Earth after that. Is that a theory that I believe? No, not at all. Is it a good concept for a sci-fi movie? Yes. That we are the first and/or the most advanced life forms at this moment in space-time. I don't remember where I heard it, maybe some NPR program, but it's interesting to consider. We often discount the idea that we could ever be that special, but there is always the chance that we are. Someone had to be the first, that someone might just be us. All the UFO sightings throughout history are just humans from the future on a time-traveling safari meant to observe how we were in the past. They are supposed to keep out of sight, but thanks to human, mechanical errors there have been hiccups with their cloaking which have resulted in being seen. That's why there have always been so many reports of them throughout history. But there has never been an attack. It's just us. Also, the reason why we don't see many examples of UFOs now, even through pretty much everyone has a camera, is because people are not that interested in this time period, since we already come on aspects of human life all the time. If you wanted to explore space, you'd send technology instead of risking the life of a scientist. The little gray, green men and other now cliché depictions are just biological computers that they can control, and that's why they look so simplistic and unidentifiable. Reminds me of Robot or droids. The US military has intentionally orchestrated alien sightings and kidnappings, as well as funded UFO religions and conspiracy theories, to prevent people from being taken seriously should they happen to notice some experimental planes and so forth. There are no aliens, but there are US military agents in goofy spacesuits who mutilate cattle and probe deranged people to encourage them to make fools of themselves. That we haven't met a single one yet because they're either as technologically advanced as us, or not as much as us. We always imagine, thanks to movies and sit, that aliens are superior beings, more advanced on every aspect. But what if all the sentient races of the universe are actually all roughly on the same level technologically speaking? What if the reason we still haven't met them is because they too can't travel any further than their own solar system or the closest astral body to them? And the reason we can't meet each other is because none of us are advanced enough technologically speaking to even find each other. Imagine what we think about aliens today. Now apply to what other races. They most likely think the same thing as us about what they call their aliens. We are actually the first life forms to ever exist, and in the future we will be referred to as the Great Ancients. Not from space, but from here, but perhaps partially out of sync with us somehow. I think world mythology, fables, and other stories often describe similar beings. Throughout world history, this is just the most modern and popular take on the subject. They're evolved humans from the future. My father-in-law believes that Bigfoot is an alien. It explains why we rarely see photos or evidence. The book Little Green Men. Aliens only abduct people that they know won't be believed, until a paperwork screw-up leads them to kidnap someone with a trusting audience. Can't remember where I heard it. I know it was from a movie or TV show, but it went like, if you took a cup to the ocean and filled it, you wouldn't assume fish don't exist since there's none in the cup. That's the same with our galaxy. We've only explored and reached so far. In an alternate reality, We have developed different forms of technology due to different historical choices. So the humans of that alternate reality have advanced enough to travel to other realities. And another theory is that UFOs are just the alien equivalent of a microscopic lens. And our entire universe is just a petri dish. That there are alien empires out there. But our planet is just restricted because it is on the border or neutral zone between them. So no visitors are supposed to appear, but some jump quarantine to visit and deal in exotic earth goods. Also from Isaac Arthur. The sightings of UFOs are just black market traders in their janky spaceships who have bad stealth tech, so they are more easily sighted and sometimes even crash. The goats of Earth may have some low-level deals with them for protection against things like asteroids. The aliens are humans from the far future. They're not traveling through space but through time. They probe and dissect to learn about their ancestors and use that knowledge to better their present. I had a fun theory that Earth is one of a few life-generating planets and that aliens are actually Earth-originated beings who have moved on to settle the galaxy. Any visits are them checking in on our development, and eventually we'll be advanced enough to join and make way for another wave. Not really a theory, I believe. More the basis for a story. The theory that really intrigues me is that other beings in the universe find it pointless to contact us as we are not highly evolved creatures. And that trying to make contact with us would be as if humans tried to make contact and communication with ants. We wouldn't be able to understand them or comprehend anything they would say. That they're extratempestrals, not extraterrestrials. They are some type of human evolutionary outcome from the future. It's why they look humanoid if evolution were to theoretically continue. Time travelers or dimension travelers may explain why they aren't violent, obvious, or intrusive. They're just what humans become in X years. Just a theory, but I think it holds weight. Aliens came to Earth in 2550 BC and built the pyramids as a gift to thank the Egyptians for introducing them to cats, the animal. Then they came back in 1981 and gave us the internet for introducing them to cats, the musical. Then they came back once again in 2019 and gave us COVID-19 for introducing them to cats, the movie. Prove me wrong. Maybe UFOs seemingly don't have rivets or welds because cold welding can occur in any other atmosphere except ours. I think if there's any intelligence with the capability of traveling through the vast distance of space, it's not going to be a bunch of individual beings riding around together in a spacecraft. I doubt it would be biological animals at all. Anything with that kind of capability and power would be quite abstract and unrecognizable, and probably entirely uninterested in communicating with us. That UFOs are just time travel devices from people in the future observing the past. We don't have a ton of UFO sighting anymore because now that we have social media and post everything about ourselves, people from the future already know everything about us. We live in a computer simulation where there is only enough RAM to load a single solar system. I worked with a guy who had a conspiracy of a conspiracy. Thought that it wasn't aliens, it was demons from hell, and the government just wanted us to think that they were aliens so we wouldn't catch on to their evil devil plots. Had a good laugh. Roswell. The fact that a military expert identified it as a spaceship publicly then had to do a very staged photo op to discreet himself, and that a bunch of people in the military had weird stories from that time. Like flying a general to New Mexico then straight to Washington suggests they might have found something. Also, the government had to change their story and admit to lying doesn't sound great. I don't exactly believe it, but if I was forced to pick one, that would be it. There's a musician, comedian that does a bit on how we are just a poof, living planet now, but for another planet full of life to pop up it might be millions of years later and millions of miles away. Connecting the two would be impossible. I can't remember and it's on YouTube but I can't find out. I've been looking for 46 minutes lol. If you've seen it please share it with me. It's like Vlad the Astronomer or something. Man, tip of my tongue. A report on U.S. UFO sightings is supposed to be released soon. Washington Post. National Security, the 23rd of March 2021, UFO report COVID bill. Dark forest theory. We are like a reservation or ecological reserve for them. We're not to be interfered with. I find it interesting that we see proportionately less pictures, footage of UFOs now that we all have cameras in our pockets than in the 80s when film was expensive. It should be dramatically more yet, it isn't. And with HD, 4K, 8K now we should have really high quality proof, at least some different wavelengths or dimensions, if there's a difference. So, the same way we can't see, feel colors outside our visible spectrum, e.g., gamma rays. We're too different to interact with aliens. Sometimes they build odd contraptions to phase into our dimension. Sometimes mushrooms, chemicals disrupt our brain enough to see into their dimension. Neither method works for very long. So there's just sightings without much interaction. UFOs are actually a result of mad scientists and not aliens. The only reason there aren't any sightings is because they record and upload videos of their experimental crafts to YouTube nowadays.